Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Rocket Chiro Podcast. This is the business and marketing podcast for chiropractors. I hit the record button. I wasn't quite ready yet, so I was a little slow on the uptake and the intro there. So excited you guys are with me again. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing, all of that cool stuff. We're going to talk about your website today. We're just going to talk about an overview of what makes a great chiropractic website. I'm going to go over its primary purpose. I'm going to go over the two kind of identifying marks and the things that if you nail these two things, you're going to get the most from your website and most patients from the internet. And then we're just going to go through some common mistakes that I see. I've actually talked about all of these things in different ways, shapes, and forms on the podcast before, but I wanted to do a summary because I put a page together on my website recently that had this stuff on it, but there wasn't a specific podcast that I did or video or something like that where I went over all of this stuff as a whole. So that's kind of the plan for the day. If you want me to look at your website and if you need a new website or want improvements with your website, go to Rocket Chiro and request a practice assessment. I'll be happy to look at your stuff and we can kind of talk about that. No pressure, no obligation, nothing like that. But if you feel like your website is lacking and you want it to improve, reach out to me. I'll be glad to help you. I also want to say, if you haven't checked out the Ringdinger interview I did last time, I really enjoyed it. I know that he's kind of a polarizing person, and I'll probably talk more about it at some point down the road as far as just what my thoughts are and the feedback that I got, just how, I guess sort of a behind the scenes idea of what was kind of going on there. But overall, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun interview. I thought it was enlightening in terms of getting to know him a little bit. I know that there's some people out there that don't like him, that are just kind of always not going to like him. And I know there's people out there that love him, that are always going to love him. And I don't think that's really who the podcast was for. I think the podcast was for the people in the middle that really don't necessarily have a strong opinion, but are kind of open-minded. I enjoyed it. I actually really enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I was going to. And I'm glad I did that. So if you haven't checked that out, check it out. I think it's worth listening to. So let's do this. Let me pull this up here on my website. Hopefully, I have a new camera here that I'm working with because I have been dealing with an old camera for a long time that I've just not bothered upgrading. And I upgraded a camera, and now, when you upgrade things or when you change stuff, it presents new problems. So hopefully these problems are not too bad. There's only a handful of people that watch this on YouTube anyway, so it probably doesn't matter because most of you guys just listen, which is fine. That would be my preference as well. I don't need to see my face. All right, so let's do this. So get into this. What makes a great chiropractic website? So the first thing you have to do if you want to have a great chiropractic website is you need to be clear on your purpose. The purpose of most chiropractic websites, and obviously there's going to be exceptions to the rule, but most chiropractors, the max benefit that you're going to get from your website is new patients. It should be new patient focused. It should be new patient centered. I know that chiropractors sometimes have patients that go back to their website and they sort of use it as a patient education thing. There are chiropractors who use it to sell products. There's chiropractors who use their website for these different things. I would just encourage you not to make secondary things primary on your website. The vast majority of chiropractors, the big value you're going to get is by making your website new patient focused and really, really tailored to that new patient experience. So as long as if you don't understand that, and I'll tell you that there are a lot of chiropractic website companies that don't understand that. I think that and this isn't one of the mistakes that I talked about. I'm going to talk about some common mistakes here at the end. But one of the things that does happen a lot is chiropractic website companies. I think that they make websites for chiropractors. What I mean by that is that they make a website that the chiropractor likes, and the chiropractor doesn't know enough to know that it doesn't matter whether you like it or not. What matters is it doing a good job of transitioning someone from non-patient to patient? Is it doing a good job of really communicating what you do? Is it, doing a good job of helping people come to the conclusion, the right people come to the conclusion that they found the right chiropractor? And just because you might like certain things, you're like, oh, this is an interesting article. This is an interesting thing. It's got a spinny spine on it, whatever. There's all kinds of things that are interesting and appealing to chiropractors that aren't interesting and appealing to the general public. And when you make the mistake of not understanding who your website is for and what your website is for, you're getting off on the wrong foot. And I think at that point, you're going to have a hard time reining it in if you don't understand the correct purpose of your website. So we'll kind of get that out of the way first. Is the purpose of your website is going to be new patient focused, and it's going to be to primarily address to new patients. So there's two things that I would summarize. And if you've ever done a practice assessment with me, you'll probably hear me say this, where I will say that I look at stuff from the perspective of, are people finding you and what do they find when they get there? Now, the reason I look at it with that perspective is because those are the two aspects that if a chiropractor does well, meaning people are finding them and people are seeing something that's very compelling once they do find them, they're choosing them. Like, that's kind of the end result of that. If a chiropractor does that, that is really the magic sauce. That's kind of the secret sauce to getting a lot of patients from the internet. And so if you're doing one of those things well, then you might see some benefit from that, but you're not going to see the maximum benefit. The idea is to do both of those things. And that's why I would summarize a good or even a great chiropractic website would be a website that is being found and a website that's doing a good job of transitioning people from non-patient to patient. So people are finding you, and when they find you, they're choosing you. And if you happen to have one of these messed up, and I'll give you an example, one of my chiropractors he's one of my clients, he came to me and I looked at his SEO. And he was a relatively new practice, but when I looked at his SEO, it was very clear to me that because he was in this small area, he actually had good SEO, meaning that people were finding his website, but he was getting no patients, like 0 patients from the internet. And I looked at his website, and his website was just very cluttered. It was very non-specific as far as what is the value that you offer, like what's the thing that this person should do next. And I'm kind of getting ahead of myself in terms of common mistakes, but he had a situation where, let's say 100 people or 200 people or 300 people visit your website every month, and not a single one chooses you not a single one schedules an appointment. That's a problem. That's a major problem. So if you change either one of those things, meaning if you get more people viewing your stuff, you'll get more patients from the internet. If you get more people choosing you once they find you, you'll get more people from the internet. If you do both of those things, that's when you'll get a lot more people from the internet. So if you do both of those things well. And so his was a situation where once we changed his website and really worked on his process of transitioning someone from non-patient to patient, it really made a big difference in his practice. Now, I would actually say the harder thing to do, and this is a common problem with new doctors, it's harder to get that exposure, especially if you're in an area where there's a lot of chiropractors, because search engine optimization isn't something that you just flip a switch and magically like, oh, now I'm showing up really high in Google, and oh, now I'm really showing up high in on the maps and whatever. It doesn't generally work like that. Now, it sort of reminds me of that old Chinese proverb where it's like, when's the best day to plant a tree? It's like, well, it's 20 years ago. When's the next best day to plant a tree? It's like, well, it's today. Well, SEO is sort of the same way where, yeah, in theory, if you could have started SEO 15 years ago or 10 years ago, that would be great. Like, that would be you'd be in a much better place. Since you didn't, you need to start doing the right things today so that 5 years from now, you'll be glad that you did. I know that's not the long-term mentality that a lot of people have, especially when they're really struggling, but that's sort of how you have to think about it. So, purpose of your website, new patient focused. 2 major aspects of your website that are going to make it a great website, meaning it's easily found and it does a good job of converting people from non-patient to patient. People are choosing you once they find you. What are some common mistakes? So I'm going to go through these real quick here. There are, 7 of them in no particular order, except the first one is probably the most common. So common chiropractic mistake number 1 is going to be cluttered website. It's really rare that I don't see a cluttered website. When I don't see a cluttered chiropractic website, it's usually because a chiropractor did their own website, like they built it on, their own platform or WordPress or Squarespace or Wix or whatever. They built it on there. They don't really have any idea of what's good, what's bad content, what they should put on there, what they shouldn't. They obviously don't have, especially new chiropractors, they don't have a lot of things to add. So it's just really stripped down and bare. I visually appreciate kind of a stripped down and bare website. But there's other issues with that, because if you don't optimize for SEO, like if you just don't put a lot of content on there, Google doesn't really know what your website's about, which is a whole nother issue. But that's not generally where chiropractors go. Generally where chiropractors go is you look at their main menu and there's like 8 different things that they can click on. Each of those things has 2 or 3 drop downs. There might be drop downs off of drop downs. You scroll down and there's like 7 or 8 different things that people can click on. You scroll down further and there's like 10 different links in their footer. It's just clutter. There's just crap everywhere. And the important thing to understand is if our website is for the purpose of converting new patients, like that's the point, you need to make sure that the major is the major. You need to make sure that the thing that is most important is the thing that is most important. If you take everything on your website and dump it out for everybody to see and hope that they're going to find the right thing, that is a terrible way to go about your website. It needs to be layered and structured and organized in a way that guides a person's eyes the way you want them to see. You can't just assume that they're going to find the thing that's most important. That's a terrible way to go about marketing and your website and everything else. So clutter, huge issue. Website companies do it. Even companies that I like, I see some of their stuff kind of getting more and more cluttered, and it's just like, this is not helping anybody. It just isn't. I could be, who knows? I could be wrong, but I have yet to see a situation where clutter is anyone's friend from a marketing standpoint. Problem number 2, mistake number 2 is unclear next step. I've said this a million times. A caveman should be able to stumble upon your website and within 15 seconds know what you do, like what's the value that you offer and what do you want them to do next. Now, whether they do it or not, that's completely different conversation, but they should be able to figure it out. Like they should be able to knuckle drag their way to whatever the thing is that you want them to do next. Schedule an appointment, new patients start here, new patient special, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to do, there should be one clear, obvious next step. Now, that doesn't mean you have to strip everything out of your homepage, like a landing page or something like that, but there should be a very clear, obvious next step. Most chiropractors don't do a very good job of that. Mistake number 3 is a website designed without SEO in mind. This one's a hard one for me just because I know that most chiropractors do understand that SEO is important. But when you know something is important, but you don't actually understand that thing, you can find yourself in a situation where you yourself think that you've optimized your website and you haven't. You've really missed some really simple, basic things. There's even companies out there, and this will happen probably more with web designers than it does with people that have more of a complete approach to a website. Now, let me give you, I'll kind of try to explain this without insulting anyone in particular. There are people out there who are web designers. And what a web designer does is they can create a website that looks pretty. It looks nice. It functions great. In terms of the buttons and everything, it looks great. And you should have a website that you want looking great. Like that should be something, you don't want an unprofessional looking website. But a website that looks great and a website that performs great from an SEO standpoint are not the same thing. It's entirely possible to have a very, very well performing website that doesn't look great. And it's also possible to have a really great looking website that doesn't perform all that well. And so when I say not designed without SEO in mind, is sometimes people will sacrifice form for function, and they will remove things and change things and tweak things, or they'll go with someone who is very design heavy but doesn't know anything about SEO. Now, sometimes those people will say that the website has been optimized. I would just tell anybody this is regardless of whether you're working with me or working with somebody else. If somebody tells you they have optimized your website or they're optimizing your SEO or whatever, ask them what they mean by that, because that could mean they're doing on-site SEO. That could mean backlinks. It could mean citations. It could mean reviews. It could mean your Google business profile. There's a number of things that impact SEO. And if someone's going to offer to optimize your SEO on an ongoing basis, if someone is going to say that they've set up your website and they optimize it for SEO, or there's this ongoing optimization or whatever it is that they say they're doing, just ask them what that means. And I'm not saying you have to be defensive or be skeptical. Just ask them what it means. Like, know what they're doing, because what may be happening is it's entirely possible that you say, my site's been optimized, and really what they did was your on-site SEO, which is great. They should do that. But they didn't do anything else. And you're not doing all these other things that you could be doing or should be doing because someone told you that it was optimized when it was a partial optimization at best. And I would say most of the time when people are optimizing, it's a partial optimization. Even when I'm doing it, if I'm helping someone with reputation management, I'm like, okay, I'm going to help you with your Google business profile and I'm going to help you get more reviews. That's a partial optimization. Like, if that is not everything that affects SEO. Is it going to impact the Google Maps rankings? Yes. Is it going to be everything that could possibly affect the Google business ranking or Google business listing? No, it's not. It's a partial optimization. So just know what people are doing when they say it's optimized. And if you think it's optimized, just make sure you know what you're doing, which maybe you do, which is cool. I talked about this one recently. I don't remember what episode it was, but I talked about mistake number 4, adding social media links to your header. I hate this. Like, it really annoys me. And the reason it annoys me is not because your social media stuff is not important. It's just because if you don't understand the sequence of events, where some things are the starting point for someone getting to know you, and they kind of funnel through your process. When someone's on your website, they are as close to scheduling an appointment as they're ever going to be. Like, it's like somebody walking up to the front of your practice, and instead of you opening the door and letting them in, or having some sort of very inviting, next thing for them to do, you're like, hey, let's go around back and look at my new car. Let's go over here and talk to all these patients that have good things to say about me. There's nothing wrong with your car. There's nothing wrong with the good patients. There's nothing wrong with testimonials and posts and things online. There's nothing wrong with that. But when a person's on your website, they're as close to scheduling an appointment as they could possibly be. Do you want to send them to your Facebook page or your Instagram account or to your YouTube channel to get lost in videos and stuff that's way more interesting than you? It's just crazy to me. So I recommend putting the Instagram, put them at the bottom of your blogs, put them in your footer, put your social media stuff on your contact page. I'm all for it. I'm all for having a very, very vibrant social media presence. Don't put them in your header. Like, putting them in your header on your homepage is just dumb. Like, the person should be focused. You're focusing that person on scheduling an appointment. Like, that's what you want them to do. Not like, go over here and check out the wedding picture from 5 years ago that I just posted on my anniversary, or whatever dumb thing that you posted last week. So it's just, anyway, I just let an annoyance slip out. All right. Anyway, so here we go. Mistake number 5, adding content for the sake of adding content. Chiropractors all the time hear content is king. I will tell you this, most content is crap. It's not king. That doesn't mean you shouldn't add content, but just the content needs to be intentional. And I'm not going to deep dive into that. I've talked about it on other podcasts, but if your content is not being created for a specific purpose, then that content is crap. And so I've met people like this. One of my relatively new clients, he is the king of this, and he knows it. He knows he's made a mistake, and there's nothing he can do about it other than course correct from this point forward. But he knows that he's put so many hours, so much time, so much energy into creating content, but that content was just content for content's sake. And because someone said content is king, and he thought that someday if he creates enough content, then he'll get more new patients from it. That's not how content marketing works. So specific content is king, very directed content, purposeful content is king. And if you don't know the difference between just generic content and purposeful content, then learn that before you go crazy creating content. All right, two more. Mistake number 6 is saying too much too soon. This is a very specific annoyance of mine, but I think this came from, and I'll name names on this one. I think this is a Chiromatrix thing. Are they Chiromatrix still, or is it Chiro? I think it's Chiromatrix. Maybe they changed their name at some point. Every time I say Chiromatrix, I think to myself, like maybe they changed that. But I think it's a Chiromatrix thing. I could be wrong, but they'll have like a what to expect link, which I don't have a problem with. I don't have a problem with a what to expect on a homepage, new patient page, about page, whatever. But then they'll have like phase 1, get out of pain, phase 2, stabilization, phase 3, whatever, phase 4, your grandkids are coming and getting adjusted, whatever. It's way too much too soon. The purpose of your website is to transition someone from non-patient to patient. The purpose of your website is not to transition someone from non-patient to loyal forever patient who's never going to leave and is going to refer all their friends and family. Like that's not its purpose. It's too much. And it's like going out on a first date. You could have the absolute perfect person. Like if I met this amazing, amazing person, and I was like, I'm going to go out on a date. This is going to be amazing. And I knock on the door flies open, and the person walks down the stairs in a wedding dress with like music playing. It doesn't matter how amazing that person is. It's too much too soon. You just scared the crap out of that person. And so talking to people about whatever wellness plan, longevity, whatever plan that you have, like don't talk to about it on your website. And I don't have a problem with you introducing those concepts to people fairly early in care if you do it correctly, but don't put it on your website. Like what to expect should be, this is what to expect on your first visit. Like what to expect the first time you're in. That's it. Beyond that, you are saying too much too soon. Mistake number 7. This is a really quick one. Just giving someone else control of your URL. URLs are not expensive. They cost you whatever, $10 to $20 a year, depending on where you get it from. Letting someone else have control of your URL is foolish. And even my website clients, when I build their website for them, I don't set up URLs for them. I do not take control of their URL. I will tell them that is your responsibility. Like that's on you. The money you pay me does not involve your URL. You have to pay the $15 or whatever a year for that. That gives you the flexibility down the road that if you want to go a different direction with your website, you can do that no problem. It's yours. You can go in a different direction, have somebody else build something else for you. You're not a prisoner to any person, website designer, or platform. When you have somebody else control your URL. Now listen, the good news is most of the time, it's not a problem. Like most of the time you can get your URL transferred out of the person's name or out of the business's name, and it's not a big deal. But there are those times where someone is a jerk and they just hold your URL hostage. To me, it's not worth the risk to save yourself $10 or $15 a year. So if you're brand new, this is mainly for people that are brand new, but if you're brand new and someone is building a website for you and you don't have a URL and they're like, oh yeah, we'll go ahead and set that up for you. What do you want? Whatever. Just tell them, I'll go ahead and set it up myself. I'll find the URL. I'll buy the URL. I'll give you access to it so you can change my, my records, and you kind of link the URL to the website so that, everything's kosher, but they don't own it. They don't have control over it. You have it yourself. To me, it's the safest thing to do. There's no upside to letting somebody else have your URL or letting someone else set up your URL. All right, guys, that's it. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. That kind of summarizes quickly what makes a great chiropractic website. Like I said, if you want help with your website, you want me to build a website for you, go to Rocket Chiro and request a practice assessment. That's how you would get started with that. If you want to leave a review in iTunes, that would be great. I always appreciate that. Thank you for listening. I'll talk to you on the next episode. See ya.